Today's featured watch is a vintage Seiko diving watch. This is reference 6105-8110. The production date based on the caseback serial number is February of 1976. The case is made out of stainless steel and is often described as having a cushion shape and also having an asymmetrical shape. The reason why it's asymmetrical, if you look at this side and this side here, you see how it flares out over here to become a crown guard? That's why it's asymmetrical. It has both matte and shiny surfaces. See, it has a screw-on case back. Let me see if I can show you some of the print on the back. Zoom in a bit. Also, like you notice these spring bars over here. These are these Seiko fat spring bars, very thick, sturdy spring bars. I love these spring bars. I wish every watch I have, every diving watch would have this kind of bar, spring bar. This is a turn lock crown, not to be confused with screw lock crown, and we'll discuss that in greater detail in a minute. You see it says lock, you can see the arrow. Once again, turn lock crown. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, there have been some modifications to this watch, and I will point them out as we continue our discussion. First, let's talk a little bit about the dial. The luminous material here is superluminova on the minute indices, the hands, and the bezel dot here. The original luminous material was promethium-147, I believe, which was a weakly radioactive compound. Another modification is the crystal. This is sapphire, whereas the OEM crystal was mineral glass. Let me zoom in on the dial a bit so you can see some detail. You can see the water resistance rating there. Originally water resistance to 150 meters. There's obviously a date window at 3. Now the elapsed time bezel is 60 click and bidirectional. Now let me show you how to operate the watch. As you might have guessed, everything is done via the crown. If you pull this out to the first position, you can advance the date by turning it clockwise. If you pull it all the way out, you can adjust the hands, adjust the time. Now finally, when you're done, you basically push it back in and turn. So that's pretty much how the turn lock crown works. The turn lock crown doesn't do anything for the water resistance. All it does is to lock the crown into place so it doesn't turn anymore. The way it works is this. If you take a look at the crown, there's some slots here. See little slots there? Now there's a little post next to the case tube that fits into one of these slots, and by doing so locks the crown into place. So let me show you again. Now we're all the way out. I don't know if I can actually, if you can see that little post. I'll try to zoom in a bit. It may or may not be that easy to see. Now very often a lot of these divers, they have turn lock crowns that are non-functional because that little post gets eroded away or rubbed away. I don't think you can quite see it. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Oops, now we're a little bit out of focus. Anyway, I guess you'll have to take my word for it's there. So once again, the motion is kind of like a push-turn kind of motion. Okay, see, now it doesn't move anymore, okay? Now, as you notice, there wasn't any position here for actual hand winding. As with many Seikos, the way you start the watch is by shaking it back and forth for about 15 to 30 seconds in a horizontal arc to get the movement going, okay? Now let's talk a little bit about movement. Inside is Seiko caliber 6105B. There was an earlier variant of this movement 6105A, which was encased in earlier versions of this watch. Now the A version is generally considered to be non-hacking, whereas this version hacks. Now for those of you who don't know, for some of you newbies out there, when a watch hacks, it means that you can stop the seconds hand, you can synchronize it to whatever time source you want, okay? That's what it means by the term hack. Now, I just wanted to point out that I have taken a look at the movement, and in spite of the fact that this should be a 6105B, one of the bridges has 6105A stamped on it, which leads me to believe that perhaps it was a bridge donated from a 6105A, because these parts are essentially interchangeable. So another possibility is that perhaps it was a 615A caliber that was modified to hack. And finally, the more way out theory is that maybe there were some 6105As that did hack and somehow made its way into this particular reference, the 6105-8110 models. But the more likely scenario is the first one. It's actually a 6105B, and it just had a donor part from a 6105A. So I guess that was pretty confusing. Now, OEM strap. As you noticed, I don't have a strap. I didn't show you a strap. I purposely took away my strap to show you some of the features of this watch. Now, the fact that these lug widths are 19 millimeters, it doesn't make it easy to find a strap. What I do, or what I use, is this Maritech Zulu, a 2-ring Zulu. It's actually 20 millimeters, but I'm able to squeeze it through these lugs. It looks good and it's pretty comfortable. The original strap was rubber, and it's frequently referred to as a waffle strap. There's a pattern on it that looks like a grid. If you know what a waffle is, which I'm sure you do, and you can see it has like a sort of a waffle pattern to it. Okay, those are pretty much impossible to find in NOS condition. NOS meaning new old stock, but who knows? Maybe somebody out there has a treasure trove of these, and that guy could probably make a fortune selling those. These watches were, as the story goes, were very popular during Vietnam. The American GIs there favored this watch because they felt it was very durable and rugged and was, very usable for the damp jungles of Vietnam. So, I mean, these watches were really built to last. So I digress a bit. Let me go back to talking a little bit more about the movement. As I mentioned, it's a 6105B, or should be. It's a 17-joule automatic going at 21,600 beats per hour. The accuracy on this watch is about +3 to +4 seconds a day. Power reserve, last I checked, was about 51.5 hours. Now, as an interesting side note, the watch tends to be a little bit more accurate when I wear it on my wrist. If I wear it on my wrist, basically it gains it's either hovering around 0 or gaining like a second a day. Usually when I go to sleep, I place the watch on my nightstand, dial up, and that's when it gains the most time. So let me give you another overview of the watch before I sign off. See the writing there? Take a close-up look at the dial. What I want to emphasize in these videos, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I want to give you guys as many close-ups as possible. I want you to feel as though the watch is actually in your hands. I Hopefully it'll help you make your next purchase. And hopefully you'll feel like this is the next best thing to actually seeing the watch in the metal. Okay, so there you have it, Seiko 61058110. Considered by many Seiko fans to be a sort of a holy grail. It's a very desirable watch, and I think the design is actually timeless. It wears very, very comfortable on the wrist. And for the time that it's keeping for a watch that's, what, from 76, a 38-year-old watch, I think it's running quite well. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and all your comments are greatly appreciated. Have a good one now. Bye.